Christine Roman sitting in for Soledad O'Brien this morning on Starting Point. Let's get you started here. Our starting point this morning, battle lines drawn over the Bush tax cuts. President Obama expected to renew the fight in just a few hours as Republicans point fingers at the White House for the poor jobs numbers. We're going to talk to key players on both sides of the fight. Republican Congresswoman Blackburn of Tennessee is here, Democratic Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur of Ohio, and Republican Congressman Kevin Brady of Texas. The blame game, an attempt at keeping peace. Syria's President Bashar al-Assad blames the U.S. for the carnage in his country as he meets with Kofi Annan over a possible deal. And she's been dubbed the most hated woman in America, and he helped her walk. We're talking to Casey Anthony's former attorney, Jose Baez. We're getting inside one of the most watched and talked about trials of our time. Monday, July 9th, Starting Point begins right now. That's from my playlist, sort of a news junkie credo, right? Welcome, everyone. Good morning. With us today on the panel, we have Congresswoman Blackburn, a Republican from Tennessee. Jose Baez, the famous defense criminal attorney, has also got his new book out, Presumed Guilty. We're going to talk about that. And Richard Socarides, the former senior advisor to President Clinton and writer for NewYorker.com. Welcome to all of you. A very busy Monday morning. And we're starting this morning with the president, his plans to resurrect this discussion, this battle over the Bush tax cuts. The president's going to be surrounded by working-class Americans later today when he speaks in the White House Rose Garden. Now, he's going to be calling for an extension of tax cuts only for people earning $250,000 a year or less.
So the president's totally committed to getting rid of the tax cut for those making $250,000 and above.
Let's make some progress on our spending by doing away with tax cuts for people that, quite frankly, don't need them, tax cuts that haven't worked, and have them pay their fair share.
So is that a yes or a no? The president is completely committed to this. He won't allow it to happen.
He is 100% committed to it.
Wow, I've heard this before. Dan Lothian is here. I mean, gosh, we rewind the tape a couple years ago. We were having the same discussion.
That's right.
The president did extend tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans, but it sounds like this is going to be a high priority for this campaign/White House right now.
That's right, and you're asking how high? Well, the campaign is launching a major push in key battleground states. In New Hampshire, there will be a press conference this week with middle-class families. There'll be other events in Colorado, Florida, and Nevada involving small business owners as well as state and local officials. The president, over the last few weeks or so has really been ramping up this message of providing help for the middle-class families. And as we heard last week during his bus tour in Ohio and Pennsylvania, not only those in the middle class, but those trying to get into the middle class. And what you're seeing here appears to be sort of a shift away from the negative job numbers that we saw last week, and a shift towards tax cuts, or these tax extensions, rather, which will benefit the president. At least that's what the campaign believes, because he's able to draw a contrast between his message and the message of the GOP and the message specifically of his opponent, Mitt Romney. The president could say, look, I'm fighting for those who need the most help, and that other guy is fighting for the wealthy. Christine?
All right, Dan Lothian, I want to talk a little bit more about the president's tax plans now. Republican Congresswoman Blackburn of Tennessee, she's here with us. Our Starting Point team is all here as well. You're the Republican deputy whip. So tell me, are you going to accept this line in the sand of $250,000, or is it all or nothing? You want all of the tax cuts extended?
What the American people tell us regularly is, look, just extend this. One of the biggest problems we have, and I'm sure Richard hears this, uncertainty about regulation, uncertainty about taxation.
Yeah, the Republicans are vowing more uncertainty about health care reform, too, so they're not putting that uncertainty to bed.
Well, I would differ there. I think that there's a way to bring some certainty to this, but the uncertainty that is penetrating the environment in Washington, D.C. is so difficult, and I think that Senator McConnell probably had it about right yesterday when he said, let's take it as it is and extend everything, do it for
Let's listen to what he said. Let's listen to what Senator McConnell said yesterday. Oh, darn it, we don't have it, sorry. Well, you did such a nice, you did a nice buttoning it up. Calling for a soundbite first thing on Monday.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, if you say, okay, as they are, the 0103 cuts, let's go ahead and let's extend them for another year and get to comprehensive tax reform. And we're going to hear from Congressman Brady about some of that.
Tax reform would be so nice if anybody thought that if people in Washington could get it done. I mean, we argue about, we
won't get it done this year, but I think next year you're going to see it on the table.
Listen, when Marcia says it, it sounds so reasonable. But the truth is that we need to have this debate in this country about whether or not we're going to continue providing tax cuts for the super rich.
What is super rich, by the way?
Well, I think
agree on what is rich, what is super rich,
I think certainly over $1 million. Certainly, if you've got $100 million IRA, you're super rich.
Well, there are some Democrats who are saying that maybe $1 million should be the line.
I think $250,000 is the reasonable number and the number that makes sense. And I think that we're going to have this debate in the context of the election year. You said President Obama talked about this before and then agreed to continue the tax cuts for everybody. But the truth is he did that only because he needed to do it to make a deal. Now, in the context of this election, we're going to have a debate about where the line should be. And I think it's going to be a very healthy debate.
Let me ask you, I mean, outside of this, I call the Bermuda Triangle of New York, Boston and Washington, D.C., what do people in the rest of the country, what is rich?
Well, I hear
a Florida jury, do they think $1 million is rich, 250,000 is rich?
I think when you look at other places in the United States, $250,000 sounds like a lot of money to a lot of people, but when you go into the more urban areas, it doesn't seem that like it's a whole lot of money. But what I don't understand is what are we talking about when you say, Marcia, about the uncertainty? What exactly does that mean?
Regulatory uncertainty. Last year, 80,000 pages were added to the Federal Register. Over 4,400 new regulations. And when you are a business owner, let's take one agency, for instance, the EPA. And you're trying to deal with rules and regulations. If you're a small business manufacturer in my district in Tennessee, say you're a just-in-time supplier for the auto industry, the uncertainty that is there. If you are a community bank, we have a very strong state charter bank system in Tennessee, and you've got FDIC regulators that don't really know the banking industry who are coming in to regulate you. That is a level of uncertainty that is there. If you're looking at the tax code and the IRS is, you don't know what the tax code is going to be this year, and Congress is late in passing the extensions. We do that extenders bill every year. It provides a level of uncertainty, and what people want to know is what they're looking at so they can develop a business plan, so they can
They'd also like to, I need to move on, but and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we come back, but on top of this uncertainty is the fact that the economy is not doing well,
That's right.
So that is the real problem here. It's demand for small businesses. They're not seeing the demand they'd like to see, and they can't quite figure out what is the magic elixir that's going to fix that. We're going to come back to all of this. Coming up in about 20 minutes, Congressman Marcia Kaptur, a Democrat, is going to talk to us a little bit more about all of this, the Bush tax cuts. She's from Ohio, and she's going to join this conversation. Let's